Welcome to our special coverage of China's annual political season. I'm Zhong Shi. In just about half an hour, Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang will meet journalists at the media center in Beijing. He will take questions on China's foreign policy and diplomatic relations. We'll bring you live coverage on that in just about 30 minutes' time. And my colleague Tian Wei is standing by for us at the media center where journalists from around the world will be asking questions. Tian Wei, good morning to you. This is without a doubt one of the most watched press conferences during the two sessions. Talk to us about the atmosphere where you are and what will you and your fellow reporters most interested in finding out today?
Yes, just as you said, Zhong Shi, this is quite an occasion because this is the very first presser for the Chinese foreign minister after he assumed the position from earlier this year. In fact, we are seeing hundreds of journalists, as you may know. It's already really packed. You will see people walking around even behind me at this moment. Certainly people are looking forward to the answers from the Chinese foreign minister. This is also going to be his first presser at the annual political season of the two sessions. Now, we have seen the Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang traveling around the world with a very busy schedule. For example, go to multilateral events such as the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting, and also engaged and met bilaterally with his counterparts from around the world, from Asia, Africa, Europe, and etc. Many say his schedule is a clear reflection of the nature of China's diplomacy, namely is to expand the global partnership, to build open economy, to safeguard multilateralism, and also to build communities, humans' community of a shared future. But China did see the danger of some in the world trying to engage in power politics and confrontation. Also, China, just like many others from around the world, suffered from the disruptions of global supply chains, from protectionism, from unilateralism. So China decided to fight back over the past few years against all of these trends. So many here in the room today would be interested in hear how China would reflect upon its efforts in such nature over the past few years. And as things are getting ever more complicated, one would assume, how will China adopt new approaches toward the complexity? The other thing, of course, is everybody is aware of that China is trying to safeguard sovereignty, security, and also to promote development. That is the goal of the Chinese diplomacy. But at this point, there are strategic issues that China has to deal with, both on its own and also to work with others in order to resolve. One of them, of course, is China-US relations. Despite of the open commitments made by the presidents from China and the United States after the G20 summit last year for more interactions and also communications between the two sides. We have seen the China-US relations going deteriorated, challenged by one incident after another, with the latest, the so-called balloon incident. But even more importantly, some very strategic issues, such as the question of Taiwan, which is first and foremost considered by China as a sovereignty issue. Yet we have seen from China's perspective that issue being manipulated by some American politicians for their own domestic political gains and also for their strategic rivalry against China in the world. So China-US relations, how is that likely to be portrayed and illustrated by the Chinese foreign minister after he served last time as the Chinese ambassador to the US? That will be another important question. Furthermore, the issue of a Russian-Ukraine conflict, which is having a huge impact on both the global economy and the security. We have seen China responsibly put forward in recent weeks the proposal for political settlement of the Ukraine crisis. And yet, as things evolve, what role will China play and engage with relevant parties to seek peace, which is applauded by the international community? And another point is this is going to be the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative. China put forward this initiative 10 years ago, and we have seen a massive engagement and also interactions and building projects for the benefits of all. And how will this proceed for the coming years? Meanwhile, China put forward the Global Security Initiative and Global Development Initiative. Both of these initiatives are meant for China's engagement with the rest of the world and the betterment of all in the world. So what specific policies and actions will China put forward and to do during the rest of this year will be another important aspect, I guess, many are expecting from the annual presser of the Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang. Back to you.
And Tianwei, chances are all of these issues you mentioned just now will be brought up by the journalists packing that hall behind you now. We look forward to hearing from the Foreign Minister himself. Thank you so much for that update.
Thank you.
And the government work report stresses China's commitment to develop friendly ties with other countries and promoting world peace. The report says China follows an independent foreign policy of peace. It pursues friendship and cooperation with other countries on the basis of the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. It says China remains firm in opening up for mutual benefit, working to safeguard world peace, contributing to global development and upholding the international order. China also stands ready to work with the international community to put into action its Global Development Initiative and Global Security Initiative and promote shared values. And for some analysis, I'm now joined by Zhao Hai, Director of International Political Studies at the National Institute for Global Strategy, and Zun Ahmed Khan, Research Fellow of the Belt and Road Strategy Institute at Tsinghua University. Thank you so much for joining me. Great to have both of you on our special coverage today. I, for one, really look forward to hearing from the Foreign Minister today. Make no mistake, he's a veteran diplomat. He has seen occasions big and small, so he's no stranger to being grilled by journalists, but this will be his first 2 sessions appearance in the capacity as China's foreign minister, and he will be fully aware that people will look for clues in his answers. People will expect him to shed light on China's foreign policies going forward from this point. So, Mr. Zhao, let me start with you. What are your expectations today?
Well, I think, first of all, we've heard from Tianwei that there are so many questions on the table. So it's going to be a test, a pretty hard test for the new Foreign Minister Qin Gang to answer all those difficult questions. So we're looking forward to look at what exactly would his answers be, even though we have a good example from the 20th Party Congress where the party's foreign policy general direction will go. However, Qin Gang will provide more detailed answers to China's solutions to difficult questions and also China's foreign policy important things to do this year. And the other thing is that, as you said, Qin Gang, even though he's veteran diplomat, however, he's new in this position. And since he assumed the position, he has very few public press conference so far. So this is the number one, I think, one of the most important press conference throughout the year. So his answer will give out the information to the world. And I think around the world, there are many countries looking at this conference to get the information they needed to measure China's foreign policy and the direction of China's diplomatic direction of this year.
Zun, what about you? What will be the focus of your attention in the upcoming press conference?
Firstly, thank you so much. I completely resonate with what Zhao Hai just mentioned. I mean, this is the first time that Foreign Minister Qin Gang will be, even though as a veteran diplomat, but this is the first time he will be addressing this very famous press conference that the world looks forward to on a yearly basis. For me personally, I think Tianwei really did highlight some of the core issues like the China-US relationship as it is unfolding, also the Russia-Ukraine crisis, which has had global implications. Then this is also the 10th year of the Belt and Road Initiative, and we have seen major headway on both the Global Development Initiative and the Global Security Initiative. So what I'm looking forward to is further understanding what are the questions that developing countries' journalists will pose to the Chinese foreign minister, especially. Because what we have seen in recent years, especially last year, is that the narrative, the perspective of developing countries towards China has further evolved. There were major developments on China-Africa relations. We also saw the election of the new Brazilian president, which could be a new wave of, cooperation within the Latin American region. And there is a sense of how can that region work with China? And we see the same trend that many regions of the global south, as we say, are looking forward to understanding how can we deepen cooperation with China, and how can that, what I would call as the Bandung 2.0, which is emerging, which has become more apparent since the unfortunate conflict that we saw last year, which is still ongoing. What are the solutions that China will propose? The GSI also gives a sense of what is a shared future, what can a community with a shared future look like. So I think this is really, China's role in global leadership in promoting multilateralism has evolved and enhanced. And I think that's really going to speak volumes based on, what are the developing countries especially looking forward to from the Chinese leadership.
The foreign minister will expound on that role. We have a very general idea of what that role looks like on paper, but hopefully he will elaborate on that role further today. And I know I will want to pick your brain on the Belt and Road Initiative, which marks its 10th anniversary this year. So do stay with me here on our special program. I'll be back with you in just a few moments. And let's now have a quick review of China's diplomatic achievements over the past year.
China's diplomacy in 2022 spanned a wide range of initiatives, from hosting the Winter Olympics to advancing alternative vision for inclusive global development and world peace. In February 2022, Beijing and Zhangjiakou co-hosted the Winter Olympic Games. Amid heightened measures to ensure the safety of athletes and host country from the COVID-19 pandemic, China brought together over 3,000 athletes and para-athletes representing over 90 countries and regions, and staged one of the most watched Winter Games in Olympics history.
很高兴同各位新老朋友啊。
In April 2022, President Xi proposed the Global Security Initiative, calling on countries to adapt to the changing international landscape in solidarity and address the security challenges with a win-win mindset. 10 months later, as fighting between Russia and Ukraine marked 1 year, China further cemented the Global Security Initiative by urging the world to take the legitimate security concerns of all countries seriously. It reiterated its call to resolve disputes through dialogue. In June 2022, as the world struggled to regain its footing from the pandemic and fighting raged in Ukraine, dragging down global economic recovery, Chinese President Xi Jinping enumerated 32 major measures to realize the Global Development Initiative, or GDI. President Xi had proposed the GDI in 2021, which aims to promote balanced, coordinated, and inclusive global growth. 2022 was also highlighted by China's vigilance against and continued rejection of bloc confrontation and zero-sum competition. High on its agenda was maintaining top levels of communication with the United States. In August, Nancy Pelosi, then the U.S. House Speaker, visited the Taiwan region in a move that China called provocative. China has said that visits by U.S. officials to Taiwan are an infringement on its sovereignty and territorial integrity. These are also severe violations of the 3 China-U.S. joint communiques that articulate the U.S. adherence to the One China policy. Beijing responded with sanctions and days of large-scale military exercises around the Taiwan island, including long-range live-fire drills and missile tests. China's commitment to international multilateral forums was highlighted by President Xi's crucial visits from September to December 2022. These included his participation in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Samarkand, and summits of the Group 20 in Bali, and the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum in Bangkok. Xi also participated in the first China-Arab States Summit and the China Gulf Cooperation Council Summit in Riyadh. Throughout 2022, China also promoted trade and investment with Europe and enhanced relations with neighboring countries and other developing nations. Following the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China in October, the Chinese government welcomed senior leaders and heads of state from other countries, including Vietnam, Germany, the Philippines, Iran, and Belarus. The report to the 20th National Congress of the CPC points out the direction for China's diplomacy. It will pursue diplomacy in which China decides on issues based on their own merits, and is committed to peaceful development, high standard opening up, and a Chinese path to modernization, providing new alternatives to sustainable growth for developing countries. Wang Haiyang, CGTN.
And now let's head back to our conversation with my guests here in the studio, Mr. Zhao Hai and Zun. Mr. Zhao, let me start with you. According to the government work report, China conducted its diplomacy, what it calls major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics in all fronts in the past 5 years. What does that even mean? And if we look at more recent history over the last year, what stood out for you as China continued to conduct this concept?
Well, one of the key concepts of China's development or Chinese modernization that's stated in the 20th Party Congress is that China will insist on a peaceful development trajectory, which means China will not call for any use of force or coercion against other countries to achieve its goals. So in this new concept of major country relationship, China also wanted to promote or advocate a new type of relations between major powers so that they can peacefully coexist, work together on common challenges, global challenges, and not to fight with each other and respect each other's core interests and also security concerns. However, I think in today's world, there are many other countries who only wanted to secure their own security or advocate for some kind of absolute security concept, and also building alliances to safeguard their own interest in contrast to other countries' interests. So these two concepts are in conflict with each other, and China is trying to resolve the difference and calling upon all the countries to actually answer China's call. And the concept is represented in the document called Global Security Initiative. And so far, I think 80 more countries assigned to this very concept and agree with China. However, there are still other countries who believe their own security lies with following big countries and also using the hegemonic power to repress other countries, using sanctions and all the available tools to repress other countries' development. So in the future, I think in the past 5 years, China has been struggling with that kind of concept and also leading in global governance. And I think in the coming years, China will continue to follow that path and continue to advocate a new concept which will safeguard and provide more security and development in this world, instead of going back to the old might is right or zero-sum game, and also the imperial period of big powers fighting with each other, which only will lead to disaster in humanity. And I think the only savior or the only path toward global peace will be all the countries coming together and work with China on this new concept.
Zun, you mentioned the Global Security Initiative just now in your answers. How is China's pursuit for peace embodied in this initiative, and do you think it will be further embraced by the international community as we continue to face some of the biggest geopolitical conflicts of our time?
Well, I think, firstly, based on what Zhao Hai was also saying, the fact that, despite the growing complexity of the global geopolitical scenario, if I could put it quite simply, China's stance of continuing prioritizing engagement on issues that are mutual, on issues that are global, that are shared challenges, is something that is indeed remarkable. At this stage, we are also, in some ways, I think the dilemma of some of the other major powers that we won't name right now is that they have always existed as major powers against a threat, another. And this is something that did not. I'll come to the GSI, but this is an important concept to understand, that mentality did not resonate with a majority of the world's people that we were calling the peripheries at that point. So China's Global Security Initiative actually recognizes that in the end, the major challenges, the major issues that we face are global. If there is one thing that the international community has consensus on, it is the Sustainable Development Goals. It is human progress and human development. So I think what China has essentially done is, firstly, based on China's vast experience in understanding the 10 years of the BRI and prior to that, understanding what is the pulse of the major parts of the world. What are they seeking? Development, improvement, stability. Even during the Cold War, supposedly, if you see some of the conflicts in particular regions of the world, they had regional factors. So the narrative of, countries existing as part of two major powers or wanting to be part of a bloc is false, and the GSI completely recognizes. And I think what the Global Security Initiative aims to do further is to help countries, smaller countries especially, developing countries especially, recognize that we can move beyond a space, a mindset which is trying to divide, because there is no reason to divide. All countries, all regions have unique histories and unique experiences. Another factor, I think, is that this part of history that's talking about, camps, one versus the other, or ideological, a way in which a power should ideologically inspire or convert the other, is based on a very short part of history. When you look at history on the broad spectrum, which is the truth for, like China, most other parts of the world, they will understand that all regions have been unique, and we have to respect that. So, in a nutshell, the GSI essentially resonates, and because we haven't had a situation, a major country with global influence like China, promoting or ascribing or actually advocating this mindset, is the reason that it hasn't happened in the past few decades. But I'm very positive about it.
I know neither of you wants to name names, but I do want to spend some time on China-U.S. relations. Foreign Minister Qin Gang was the Chinese ambassador to the U.S. last year, and he bore witness to some very difficult episodes between the two countries. Chen Wei mentioned some of those incidents just now. In his new capacity as foreign minister and coming on the heels of being the Chinese ambassador to the U.S., what do you think will constitute his understanding of the China-U.S. relations at the moment? Will there be new approaches, his approaches to addressing this all-important relationship, Mr. Zhao?
Well, I think in his position as the ambassador to the United States, Qin Gang has played a key role in mediating the potential conflict between the two countries, and also set up meetings between the two top leaders. So the Bali meeting was actually a success, and China and the United States decided to increase communications and try to build a floor for stabilizing the relationship. However, I think precisely because the United States only emphasized on the competition side of the relationship instead of having a balanced relationship with China, it intends to magnify the potential conflict areas. So today, as we see in the so-called balloon incident, that only a small balloon would incur a huge conflict between the two countries, and influence people's mind and their view of China in a tremendous way. And also today, there are so many other so-called domains developed by new technology, like cyberspace, outer space, and in all those spaces, China and U.S. should be working together to explore new spaces, discover more development opportunities, and lead other world to meet the gap or the challenge of global governance. However, in those domains, you find the United States basically using geopolitical mind or zero-sum game kind of mind, applying to those domains and trying to divide those domains into different camps or different groups, and excluding other countries like China and other countries who do not share their ideology or values or political systems. So this kind of behavior or this approach will only push countries far away from each other and increase the possibility of conflict. And therefore, I think Qin Gang has been addressing this during his time in Beijing, in the United States, and now he's also trying to resolve this in Beijing with new approach. I would hope that to increase dialogue channels, and also not only standing the ground on Chinese principle issues, but also trying to find new ways to increase cooperation, like climate change, like biosecurity, and also like other global development issues in the world. So hopefully the United States will come back to the normal and correct understanding of China and today's world and realize, the majority of global countries need what is not conflict, but not sort of steep competition, but cooperation, more cooperation.
I mean, the zero-sum, this is very regretting to see. I mean, the zero-sum game mentality that China has repeatedly warned against is actually still very much in play in the China-U.S. relations. Ambassador Qing, when he was the Chinese ambassador to the U.S., specifically talked about the threat phobia that existed in American society, and he said he was willing to facilitate the change in perceptions when it comes to today's China. Zhuan, the cooperation Zhao Hai talked about just now that could otherwise happen perfectly between China and U.S. is now being canceled out because of the restrictions and obstacles between the two countries. What are your expectations from the new foreign minister in addressing these these are old issues, these are not new, these long-standing issues and that phobia that he talked about?
Well, I think, first of all, it's true that even the balloon incident, the reaction from, I would say, the more hawkish segment of that society, of the American society and influencers, did not entirely resonate with a lot of American people either. And China's response was actually one which, like you said, Qin Gang, China is generally looking for avenues of being able to understand each other in a better way. So how can, let's say, and given that this has been China's approach consistently ever since the tensions have escalated and further increased, one can wonder, what would work? I would say that the fact that within the American society, there is a rise of a leftist perspective. There is a rejection of the Cold War mentality. There is an increasing understanding among scholars, amongst young people as well. It may be very small right now, but the trend is there that we want no zero-sum. A zero-sum mindset is futile. The other challenge is also that when it comes to developing countries, especially some that are cooperating with China on the BRI, you will have American officials. These are headlines constantly making news in those countries and otherwise globally as well, coming over and saying, okay, we be wary of your cooperation with China, etc. So I think what China can really do further to reduce the implications of Washington's, like you said, this phobia, this threat phobia, is also to even more effectively engage those developing countries that seem to be potentially, maybe they would have questions. Okay, is there something we need to be wary about? Have that interaction, enhance that engagement further. And when it comes to Washington, I think just keep a a very appropriate stance, continue to focus and make headlines globally that yes, the environment, there are so many global challenges that we need to face, and that will further, I think that will further woo the Americans that are not convinced on this divisive narrative, and it will further embolden and make those developing countries even more confident that there is a strong voice, and that is a voice that speaks with conviction. That we have global challenges to solve. And this last year, this COVID-19 pandemic has had unfortunate implications for various economies in the world. People are not looking for more conflict. They need a stabilizing voice.
We are inching closer to the beginning of that press conference. I do think we have time for one more question. I want to pick your brain on the Belt and Road Initiative. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative. In your research, in your observations, Zhuan, what has been the major achievements and fruits of the Belt and Road so far? Connectivity with developing countries, building understanding, improving people's livelihoods, some of the obvious. Talk to us more about this.
That's a big one to unpack, but I think in a nutshell what I can say is that the Belt and Road Initiative was a mindset shift for many developing countries that did not understand. They were studying, development from mostly a Eurocentric perspective. And they were not able to understand, okay, what can the specific solutions for us be? What is that process you need to follow in order to come out of that trap of poverty, of a vicious cycle of uncertainty, not knowing where to start? The Belt and Road Initiative for many regions of the world, including my own country. It opened a new perspective based on practice, based on, understanding that infrastructure development is a prerequisite, first of all. There is limited financing for it. And this, in turn, is what's going to be, you would say, the basis of development, of improved livelihoods, of improved opportunities, enhanced opportunities. So what is the Belt and Roads achievements? I think even in these last years of the pandemic, we have seen some major, infrastructure, ports, major projects that are changing people's lives. We have seen connectivity within regions. If you look at the African continent, you look at parts of Central Asia, also parts of South Asia, East Asia, this has created the opportunity for countries to be able to achieve their own domestic goals. For example, in Laos's case, we say their vision was to be land-linked instead of landlocked, and the BRI allowed that. And the same is the case for Latin America.
Connection.
Exactly. So with that railway connection, right? And it's changing lives by the millions, at least, immediately. So the BRI's biggest achievement, I would say, is that, first of all, it's making that perspective that regional connectivity is the ultimate solution. To see our development as regions in a collective sense is something important. And the second thing, the phase 2, people's understanding, the conversation of poverty alleviation is something that did not happen in the same way that it is now. So how to address...
Let me assure you, I can't get enough of that, and we'll come back to that. But for now, the Foreign Minister's press conference is starting. If you're just joining us here, we're moments away from the start of a Foreign Minister press briefing in Beijing as a part of the ongoing 2 sessions. Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang is expected to take questions from the press and media. Let's take a listen together.
媒体朋友们，大家好！14届全国人大1次会议记者会现在开始。本场记者会的主题是中国的外交政策和对外关系。大会新闻中心很高兴地邀请外交部长秦刚先生出席记者会，并回答大家的提问。现在欢迎秦刚先生和大家做交流，谢谢。
Dear friends from the press, good morning. This is the press conference of the first session of the 14th National People's Congress. The theme today is China's foreign policy and external relations. We are very glad to have with us His Excellency Qin Gang, Minister of Foreign Affairs, who will be taking your questions. Now I have the honor to pass the floor to Minister Qin Gang.
各位记者朋友，上午好，很高兴同大家见面。
Friends from the media, good morning. I am very pleased to meet you.
当今世界正进入100年未有之大变局，中国将坚定奉行独立自主的和平外交政策，坚定奉行互利共赢的开放战略，始终做世界和平的建设者、全球发展的贡献者、国际秩序的维护者。
As the world is undergoing major changes unseen in a century, China will continue to pursue the independent foreign policy of peace and will continue to implement the mutually beneficial strategy of opening up. China will always be a builder of world peace, a contributor to global development, and a defender of the international order.
下面，请大家提问。
Now I'm ready to take your questions.
谢谢，请开始提问。请中区第3排第1位女士提问。
谢谢主持人。外长您好，我是中央广播电视总台记者。那现在呢，随着防疫政策的调整和优化，国内外对于今年的中国外交都充满了期待，所以我们也想请问您能否为我们介绍一下今年的中国外交，特别是元首外交有怎样的重点和亮点？那此外呢，作为新任外长，对于今后一个时期的中国外交，您有着怎样的期待和展望？谢谢。
China Central Television. With the readjustment of China's COVID response, People at home and abroad have great expectations for China's diplomacy in 2023. What will be the priorities and highlights in China's diplomacy, particularly in head of state diplomacy? As the new foreign minister, how do you envision China's diplomacy in the years to come?
今年是贯彻落实党的20大精神的开局之年。党的20大对中国外交规划了顶层设计，明确了使命任务，做出了战略部署。当前，国内新冠疫情形势好转，中外交往有序恢复，中国外交已经按下了加速键，吹响了集结号。
We are in the first year of fully implementing the guiding principles set forth by the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. The Congress has outlined top-level plans for China's diplomacy, identified our missions and tasks, and made strategic arrangements to that end. With the COVID situation turning for the better in China, we are steadily resuming exchanges with the world. We've pressed the acceleration button and sounded the clarion call for our diplomacy.
我们将以元首外交为引领，特别是要全力办好首次中国、中亚5国元首峰会和第3届国际合作高峰论坛2场主场外交，不断地展现中国外交的独特风范。
We will follow the guidance of head of state diplomacy. In particular, we will ensure the success of the 2 major diplomatic events that we will host, the first China-Central Asia Summit and the 3rd Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation, which will be the showcase of the distinctive character of China's diplomacy.
我们将以维护核心利益为使命，坚决反对一切形式的霸权主义和强权政治，坚决反对冷战思维、阵营对抗和遏制打压，坚决捍卫国家主权、安全和发展利益。
We will take it as our mission to defend China's core interests. We firmly oppose any form of hegemonism and power politics. We firmly oppose the Cold War mentality, camp-based confrontation, and acts to contain and hold back other countries' development. We will resolutely safeguard China's sovereignty, security, and development interests.
我们将以伙伴关系为依托，促进大国关系协调和良性互动，发展同各国的友好合作，推动构建新型国际关系。中国的朋友圈越来越广，新朋友越来越多，老朋友越来越铁。
We will build on our extensive partnerships. We will pursue coordination and sound interactions among major countries, seek friendship and cooperation with other countries, and promote a new type of international relations. China has had a growing network of friends, made more and more new friends, and strengthened ties with old ones.
我们将以开放发展为目标，服务国内高质量发展和高水平对外开放，反对脱钩断链，反对单边制裁，维护开放包容的世界经济，以中国的新发展为世界提供新机遇。
We will take openness and development as our objective. We will facilitate high-quality development and high-standard opening up. We will reject decoupling and oppose severing industrial and supply chains and imposing unilateral sanctions. We will uphold an open and inclusive world economy and will generate new opportunities for the world with our new development.
我们将以多边主义为路径，推动构建人类命运共同体，推进国际关系民主化，推动全球治理朝着更加公正 合理的方向发展，为解决人类面临的共同挑战，贡献更多、更好的中国智慧、中国方案。
We will take multilateralism as the way forward. We will promote the building of a community with a shared future for mankind, promote greater democracy in international relations, and make global governance more just and equitable. We will offer more, better Chinese insight and solutions to help meet humanity's common challenges.
我们将以外交为民为理念，始终将海外中国同胞的冷暖安危放在心头，将外交为民的责任担在肩上，加强对海外中国公民和机构的安全保护和服务，使中外交往更安全、便捷。
We will take diplomacy for the people as our guiding principle. We will always bear in mind the well-being and security of our overseas compatriots. We will enhance the security and enhance the service and protection of Chinese citizens and institutions abroad to make the interactions between China and the rest of the world safer and more convenient.
当今世界并不太平，动荡与变革交织，团结与分裂碰撞，机遇与挑战并存。新征程上的中国外交是充满光荣梦想的远征，是穿越惊涛骇浪的远航，唯其艰巨，更显荣光。
The world is far from tranquil, being entangled in intertwined turmoils and transformation, the clash between unity and division, and the coexistence of opportunities and challenges. The new journey of China's diplomacy will be an expedition with glories and dreams, and it will also be a long voyage through stormy seas. The harder the mission, the more glorious its accomplishment.
我们将在以习近平同志为核心的党中央坚强领导下，践行习近平外交思想，贯彻党的20大精神，始终坚持维护世界和平、促进共同发展的外交政策宗旨，迎难而上，勇于担当，为全面建设社会主义现代化国家营造良好的外部环境，书写新时代中国特色大国外交的新篇章。
Under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, we will put Xi Jinping thought on diplomacy into full practice, follow through on the decisions of the 20th CPC Congress, and uphold our foreign policy goals of safeguarding world peace and promoting common development. We will meet challenges head-on, boldly take on responsibilities, foster an enabling external environment for building a modern socialist country in all respects, and write a new chapter in China's distinctive major country diplomacy in the new era.
谢谢。
Thank you.
请继续提问。请中区第2排这位埃及女记者 Hoda, please.
هدى المصري from روزا اليوسف magazine, Egyptian official Egyptian magazine. My question is, last year the 20th CPC Party Congress was held in China, and I had the opportunity to cover the event. I was very impressed with the Chinese path to modernization. I think, like me, many people think that the Chinese base to modernization is will inspire other countries, especially the developing country. So my question is, as the Chinese foreign minister, how do you see the Chinese base to modernization for the world? Thank you.
埃及鲁兹尤素福杂志。我去年曾有机会来华采访20大，在报告原文中，中国式现代化这个概念给我留下了深刻的印象。我了解到很多人都跟我有类似的想法。我们认为中国式现代化给世界各国的现代化道路提供了新的道路，也因此可以给各国，尤其是发展中国家一些启迪。作为中国外交部长，您对中国式现代化对世界的意义有什么看法？
的确如你所说，中国式现代化已成为当下国际社会的一个热词。一个拥有14亿多人口的国家整体迈入现代化，这将是人类发展史上前所未有的壮举，对世界具有重大的意义。
Indeed, as you said, Chinese modernization has become a popular phrase in the world. Achieving modernization for a country of more than 1.4 billion people will be an unprecedented feat in human history, one of profound global significance in itself.
中国式现代化破解了人类社会发展的诸多难题，打破了现代化等于西方化的迷思，创造了人类文明的新形态，也给世界各国，特别是广大的发展中国家以重要的启示。我想至少有这么5个方面。
Chinese modernization offers solutions to many challenges facing human development. It busts the myth that modernization is westernization. It creates a new form of human advancement, and it provides an important source of inspiration for the world, especially developing countries. As I see it, Chinese modernization has at least 5 features.
1是独立自主。中国式现代化之所以行得通，就是因为它立足中国大地，植根中国文化，契合中国实际。中国的成功发展充分证明，各国完全有权利、有能力选择自己的发展道路，将命运牢牢地掌握在自己手里。
First, independence. The reason why the Chinese path to modernization works is exactly because it is developed in China and rooted in Chinese culture and fits in well with China's national conditions. China's success in development also proves that every country has the right and ability to choose its own path and to hold its future firmly in its own hands.
2是人民至上。中国式现代化是全体人民共同富裕的现代化，让人民不仅物质上富足，而且精神上富有。服务少数国家、少数人不是现代化。富者越富，穷者越穷，不是现代化。精神空虚、失德失序，也不是现代化。各国人民都有平等发展、追求幸福的权利。
Second, putting people first. Chinese modernization is the modernization of common prosperity for all. It is about achieving both material abundance and cultural ethical enrichment for the people. Modernization should not serve the interests of only a few countries or individuals. It should not make the rich richer and the poor poorer, nor should it lead to cultural impoverishment, moral degradation, or disorder. People around the world should all enjoy the rights to seek development as equals and pursue happiness.
3是和平发展。中国式的现代化，1不靠战争，2不靠殖民，3不靠掠夺。我们坚持和平发展、合作、 共赢，坚持人与自然和谐共生，走出了一条与西式现代化截然不同的崭新的道路。
Third, peaceful development. Chinese modernization is not pursued through war, colonization, or plundering. It is dedicated to peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit, and is committed to harmony between humanity and nature. It is a new path, different from Western modernization.
四是开放包容。人类的现代化不应是孤芳自赏，而应是百花齐放，尊重各国走符合自身国情的发展道路，彼此交流互鉴，精彩绽放，美美与共。
Fourth, openness and inclusiveness. Humanity's modernization should not be a one-flower show, but 100 flowers in bloom. It is important to respect the right of every country to pursue a modernization path tailored to its national reality, and encourage exchange and mutual learning, so that all will flourish and prosper together.
五是团结奋斗。中国发展的成功经验充分证明，一盘散沙没有希望，团结奋斗才有力量。要咬定青山不放松，一张蓝图绘到底。如果像有的国家那样，政党纷争，只说不做，朝令夕改，再好的蓝图也只是画饼充饥，空中楼阁。
Fifth, working hard in unity. China's success proves that acting in disunity like a heap of loose sand will get us nowhere, and that only by striving in unity can we pull strength. We will persevere in carrying out the set blueprint until it becomes reality. Partisan rift, empty talk, and frequent policy flip-flop, as seen in certain countries, will only make even the best blueprint an illusion and a castle in the air.
总之，中国式现代化的进程是世界和平、正义、进步力量的壮大。我们希望，也相信，世界上越来越多的国家走上现代化，使人类命运共同体的梦想成为现实。
The process of Chinese modernization is a boost to the force for peace, justice, and progress in the world. We hope and believe that as more and more countries begin their own journey of modernization, the vision of building a community with a shared future for mankind will become true.
谢谢。
Thank you.
请继续提问。请南区第二排，右边第二位，俄罗斯塔斯社左亚。
谢谢。您好，塔斯社记者提问：中俄关系是世界关注的焦点，您如何看待两国关系发展走向？中俄关系能否为国与国关系提供新的范式？中国国家主席是否将于两会后访问俄罗斯？未来中俄双边贸易中是否有可能放弃使用美元或欧元？谢谢。
TASS. Russia-China relations have drawn a lot of attention. How do you view the future of this relationship? Will it provide a new model for state-to-state relations? Will Chinese President visit Russia after the NPC and CPPC sessions? Is it possible for our two countries to drop the use of the US dollar and the euro in bilateral trade settlement?
你提到大国关系范式，这是观察中俄关系的一个很好的视角。大国交往是搞封闭排他的政治集团，还是坦坦荡荡的君子之交？ 中俄呢成功地走出了一条大国战略互信、邻里友好的交往之道，成为国际关系的典范。
You mentioned the model for major country relations. That is a good perspective for observing China-Russia relations. Major countries should figure out what they want with each other, building exclusive political blocs or fostering friendship that is open and sincere. China and Russia have found a path of major country relations featuring strategic trust and good neighborliness, setting a good example for international relations.
有的国家习惯用冷战结盟的滤镜看中俄关系，看到的不过是自己的倒影。中俄关系不结盟、不对抗、不针对第三方，既不对世界上任何国家构成威胁，也不受任何第三方的干扰和挑拨。
Some countries who are inclined to view China-Russia relations through the lens of Cold War alliances see nothing but their own image. The China-Russia relationship is based on no alliance and no confrontation, and it is not targeted at any third party. It is not a threat to any country, nor is it subject to any interference or discord sown by any third party.
中俄携手世界多极化和国际关系民主化就有的动力，全球战略平衡和稳定就多了保障。世界越是动荡不安，中俄关系就越要稳步前行。
With China and Russia working together, the world will have the driving force toward multipolarity and greater democracy in international relations, and global strategic balance and stability will be better ensured. The more unstable the world becomes, the more imperative it is for China and Russia to steadily advance their relations.
中俄元首之间保持着密切的交往，这是两国关系的指南针和定盘星。我们相信，在两国元首的战略引领下，中俄新时代全面战略协作伙伴关系一定会在高水平上持续向前发展。
The leadership between our two countries maintain close contact. Head of state interaction is the compass and anchor of China-Russia relations. Under the strategic guidance of the two presidents, the China-Russia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Coordination for the new era will surely grow from strength to strength.
至于你提到中俄的贸易使用什么货币，答案很简单，什么货币好用，既安全又信得过，就用什么货币。国际货币不应该成为单边制裁的杀手锏，更不应成为霸凌胁迫的代名词。
As for the currencies to be used in China-Russia trade which you asked about, the answer is clear. Whichever that are efficient, safe, and credible, currencies should not be trump cards for unilateral sanctions, still less a disguise for bullying or coercion.
谢谢。
Thank you.
谢谢，请继续提问。请北区第一排第3位女士提问，谢谢。
谢谢主持人。外长您好，人民日报社记者提问。这几年啊，大家对国际形势的普遍感受就是一个乱字。那国际社会呢，普遍期盼共护和平、共谋发展的良治之策。 我们知道啊，习近平主席提出的全球发展倡议和全球安全倡议呢，是受到了国际社会的普遍欢迎。那么，请问中方在加强和完善全球治理方面，打算发挥什么样的作用？还将采取怎样的举措？谢谢。
People's daily. One commonly accepted word to best describe the international situation in recent years is chaotic. The international community desires to improve global governance for the sake of peace and development. In this context, the Global Development Initiative and the Global Security Initiative put forward by President Xi Jinping have been welcomed by the international community. What role does China want to play in strengthening and improving global governance? What further steps will it take to this end?
当今世界变乱交织，世界怎么了？我们该怎么办？人类再次站在了历史的十字路口。习近平主席从世界、历史和人类的高度，指明了全球治理的人间正道。
Amid the changes and confusion, people are wondering what's wrong with our world and what we should do about it. Humanity has come to a new crossroads. Keeping in mind the lessons of history, as well as the well-being of the world and all humanity, President Xi Jinping has proposed the right approach to global development.
新时代10年，习近平主席相继提出了一系列的重大倡议和主张，包括构建人类命运共同体、共建“一带一路”、弘扬全人类共同价值、全球发展观、全球安全观等等。这些理念的一个核心就是世界各国相互依存，人类命运与共，国际社会要团结合作。
Through the past 10 years in the new era, President Xi Jinping has put forward a host of major initiatives and proposals, including building a community with a shared future for mankind, the Belt and Road Initiative, the common values of humanity, the GDI and the GSI. The core message of these initiatives is that countries are interdependent, mankind have a shared future, and the international community must get united for cooperation.
团结合作可以战胜新冠疫情，可以应对气候变化，可以破解和平赤字、安全赤字、发展赤字、治理赤字，建设持久和平、普遍安全、共同繁荣、开放包容、清洁美丽的世界。
With solidarity and cooperation, we can defeat COVID, address climate change, tackle the deficit in peace, development, security, and governance, and build an open, inclusive, clean, and beautiful world of lasting peace, universal security, and common prosperity.
迈向全球治理的道路并不平坦。中国古人讲：“天下兼相爱，则治；交相恶，则乱。”古人还讲：“道思者乱，道法者治。”
Yet the path to global governance is far from smooth. An ancient Chinese philosopher observed that goodwill leads to good governance, while enmity, chaos. Another ancient philosopher stressed that the rule of selfish interests spells chaos, while the rule of law brings good governance.
古人的智慧告诉我们，全球治理要守法，要遵循联合国宪章所体现的国际法精神，要秉持公平公理，反对霸权私利，要坚持同舟共济， 不搞分裂对抗。
The moral of these wise sayings is that global governance should be promoted in accordance with the law and the principles of international law enshrined in the UN Charter. Equity and justice must be upheld, while hegemonism and selfish interests must be rejected. Solidarity must be defended, while division and confrontation must be abandoned.
发展中国家占世界人口总数的80%以上，对世界经济增长的贡献率超过了70%。发展中国家的人民有过上更好日子的权利。发展中国家在世界事务中应该享有更大的代表性和发言权。
Developing countries account for more than 80% of the global population and more than 70% of global economic growth. People in developing countries are entitled to a better life, and developing countries are entitled to greater representation and a louder voice in international affairs.
大道之行，天下为公。中国将始终坚持胸怀天下，积极参与全球治理进程，为世界和平发展和人类进步的事业做出更大的贡献。
A just cause should be pursued for the common good. China will keep in mind the interests of the world, take an active part in global governance, and contribute more to world peace and development and to human progress.
谢谢。
Thank you.
好，请继续提问，请中区第一排中间 Eric NBC。
NBC, thank you. Foreign Minister Qin Gang, you once wrote that the future of the American and Chinese people, indeed the future of the entire planet, depends on a healthy and stable relationship. Healthy and stable relationship, is that still possible given the widening conflict of interest on a whole range of issues? Or how do you propose to make that possible? Besides China's core interests, have you also considered the core interests of the United States?
美国全国广播公司，秦部长，您曾写道：一个健康稳定的中美关系攸关两国人民和我们星球的前途命运。鉴于双方在各种问题上的利益分歧不断扩大，还有可能发展健康和稳定的中美关系吗？或者您打算如何使之成为可能？除了中国的核心利益，您是否也考虑过美国的核心利益？
前段时间，中美关系发生了无人飞艇事件，这完全是一起因不可抗力导致的偶发意外事件。事实和性质都很清楚，连美方也承认不构成现实威胁。然而，美方却违反国际法精神和国际惯例，有罪推断、过度反应、滥用武力、借题发挥，制造了一场本可以避免的外交危机。
A recent episode in China-US relations is the unmanned airship incident. It is entirely an unexpected accident caused by force majeure, and its facts and nature are crystal clear. Even the United States did not believe it posed a physical threat. However, in violation of the spirit of international law and international customary practices, the United States acted with the presumption of guilt. It overreacted, abused force, and dramatized the accident, creating a diplomatic crisis that could have been avoided.
从偶然中可以看到必然，那就是美国的对华认知 和定位出现了严重的偏差，把中国当作最主要的竞争对手和最严峻的地缘政治挑战。这第一颗纽扣扣错了，就导致美国的对华政策完全偏离了理性健康的正轨。
An accident can reveal something fundamental. In this case, the United States' perception and views of China are seriously distorted. It regards China as its primary rival and the most consequential geopolitical challenge. This is like the first button in a shirt being put wrong, and the result is that the US-China policy has entirely deviated from the rational and sound track.
美方声称要经营中国，但不寻求冲突。实际上，美方所谓的竞争，就是全方位的遏制、打压，就是你死我活的零和博弈。
The United States claims that it seeks to outcompete China but does not seek conflict. Yet in reality, its so-called competition means to contain and suppress China in all respects and get the two countries locked in a zero-sum game.
美方口口声声说要遵守规则，但如同两位运动员在奥运田径场上赛跑，一方不是去想如何跑出自己的最好成绩，而总是要去绊倒对方，甚至想让对方去参加残奥会。这不是公平竞争，而是恶意的对抗，犯规了。
The United States talks a lot about following rules, but imagine two athletes competing in an Olympic race. If one athlete, instead of focusing on giving one's best, always tries to trip or even injure the other, that is not fair competition, but malicious confrontation and a foul.
美方所谓要给中美关系加装护栏，不发生冲突，实际上就是要中国打不还手，骂不还口。但这办不到。
It's so-called establishing guardrails and not seeking conflict simply means that China should not respond in words or action when slandered or attacked. That is just impossible.
如果美方不踩刹车，继续沿着错误的道路狂飙下去，再多的护栏也挡不住脱轨翻车，陷入对抗冲突。谁来承担其灾难性的后果？这样的竞争，就是以两国人民的根本利益和人类的前途命运为赌注的豪赌。中方当然坚决反对。
If the United States does not hit the brake but continue to speed down the wrong path, no amount of guardrails can prevent derailing, and there will surely be conflict and confrontation. Who will bear the catastrophic consequences? Such competition is a reckless gamble, with the stakes being the fundamental interests of the two peoples and even the future of humanity. Naturally, China is firmly opposed to all this.
美方有让美国再次伟大的豪情，也要有容得下别国发展的雅量。打压遏制不会使美国变得伟大，更阻挡不了中国迈向复兴的步伐。
If the United States has the ambition to make itself great again, it should also have a broad mind for the development of other countries. Containment and suppression will not make America great, and it will not stop the rejuvenation of China.
习近平主席指出，中美能否处理好彼此关系，攸关世界的前途命运。中美关系 不是一道是否搞好的选择题，而是一道如何搞好的必答题。我注意到，在美国国内也有越来越多的有识之士对当前的中美关系深感忧虑，他们纷纷呼吁美国政府要实行理性、务实的对华政策。
As President Xi Jinping pointed out, whether China and the United States can handle their relationship well bears on the future of the world. Getting the relationship right is not optional, but something we must do and must do well. I have also noted that more and more people with vision and insight in the United States are deeply worried about the current state of China-US relations and have been calling for a rational and pragmatic policy toward China.
美国人民和中国人民一样，热情、友善、淳朴，都追求幸福生活、美好世界。我在美国工作的时候，洛杉矶长滩港码头的工人告诉我，全家老小的生计都依靠中美之间的货物贸易，两国要共同繁荣。艾奥瓦州的农民告诉我，世界上还有许多饥饿的人，我要多种粮食。大学校长们告诉我，科技进步要靠国际交流，科技脱钩是双输、多输。明尼苏达州英华学院的一位小学生获得了汉语桥全球中文秀的冠军。他用流利的中文告诉我，他说汉语、学汉语，是因为喜欢中国。每当我想起他们，我就在想，决定中美关系的，应该是两国的共同利益、共同责任和两国人民的友谊，而不是美国的国内政治和歇斯底里的新麦卡锡主义。
The American people, just like the Chinese people, are friendly, kind, and sincere, and want a better life and a better world. When I was working in the United States, I visited many places. In Los Angeles, workers at the port of Long Beach shared with me how their entire families live off trade with China, stressing that the United States and China should prosper together. Farmers in Iowa told me that they want to produce more food because a great number of people in the world are still living in hunger. Presidents of universities stress that international exchange is critical for technological advancement, and that technological decoupling is a lose-lose and all lose. A kid in the Yinhua Academy in Minnesota, the world champion of the Chinese Bridge Chinese show for foreign elementary school students, confided in me that in fluent Chinese that she is learning the language because she loves China. Every time I think about them, I am convinced that the China-US relationship should be determined by the common interests and shared responsibilities of the two countries, and by the friendship between the Chinese and American peoples, rather than by US domestic politics or the hysterical neo-McCarthyism.
中方将始终按照习近平主席提出的相互尊重、和平共处、合作共赢的原则，致力于推动中美关系健康稳定发展。我们也呼吁美方认真倾听两国人民的呼声，消除威胁膨胀的战略焦虑，摒弃零和博弈的冷战思维，拒绝政治正确的无端绑架，和中方相向而行，兑现有关承诺，共同探索既有利于两国又造福于世界的中美正确相处之道。
China will continue to follow the principles put forth by President Xi Jinping, namely mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation, to pursue a sound and stable relationship with the United States. We hope the U.S. government will listen to the calls of the two peoples, rid of its strategic anxiety of threat inflation, abandon the zero-sum game mentality, which is a Cold War mentality, refuse to be hijacked by political correctness. We hope the U.S. will honor its commitments and work with China to explore the right way to get along with each other to the benefit of both countries and the entire world.
谢谢。
Thank you.
谢谢，请继续提问。请中区第2排第3位女士提问。谢谢。
谢谢主持人，我是凤凰卫视、凤凰网、凤凰秀的记者。我们关注到近一段时间以来，美国的一些智库和官员在持续的炒作中美在台海发生冲突那么一些人甚至预测这个冲突的时间就在2027年或者是2025年。还有一些媒体爆料说呢，美国已经制定了摧毁台湾的计划。所以想请问秦部长，您如何看待当前的台海局势？您认为中美在台海发生冲突的风险有多大？谢谢。
Phoenix Television. Some U.S. think tanks and officials recently have been hyping up the possibility of a conflict between China and the U.S. over the Taiwan question. Some identify the year 2027 or 2025 as the likely time of the conflict. Some media even say the U.S. has made up a plan for the destruction of Taiwan. How do you see the current situation in the Taiwan Strait? How likely is such a conflict between the two countries in the Taiwan Strait?
我知道今天肯定要问到台湾问题，所以我特地带来了一本《中华人民共和国宪法》。所以回答你的问题，我首先引用《中华人民共和国宪法》序言里的2句话：台湾是中华人民共和国的神圣领土的一部分，完成统一祖国的大业，是包括台湾同胞在内的全中国人民的神圣职责。
Before coming to this press conference, I knew the Taiwan question will be asked, so I brought with me a copy of the Constitution of the People's Republic of China. To answer your question, let me first quote 2 lines from the preamble of the Constitution. Taiwan is part of the sacred territory of the People's Republic of China. It is the inviolable duty of all Chinese people, including our compatriots in Taiwan, to accomplish the great task of reunifying the motherland.
台湾问题怎么解决，是中国人自己的事儿，任何外国无权干涉。最近，有美国高官声称，台湾问题不是中国的内政。对此，我们坚决反对，并保持高度警惕。
Resolving the Taiwan question is a matter for the Chinese people, and no other country has the right to interfere in it. Recently, some senior U.S. officials have asserted that the Taiwan question is not an internal affair of China. We firmly oppose such absurd comments, and we will stay on high alert.
对于两岸来说，我们都有一个家，名字叫中国。作为骨肉同胞，我们将继续以最大诚意、尽最大努力实现祖国和平统一，同时保留采取一切必要措施的选项。中国反分裂国家法对此规定得很明确，如果出现了违反该法的情况，我们必须依宪依法行事。任何人都不要低估中国政府和中国人民捍卫国家主权和领土完整的坚强决心。 坚定意志和强大能力。
The two sides of the Taiwan Strait belong to one common family, which is called China. As brothers and sisters, we will continue to work with the greatest sincerity and utmost efforts to pursue peaceful reunification. Meanwhile, we reserve the option of taking all necessary measures. In fact, China's anti-secession law has explicitly made this point. In case this law is violated, we must act in accordance with the Constitution and the law. No one should ever underestimate the firm resolve, strong will, and great capability of the Chinese government and people to safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
台湾问题是中国核心利益中的核心，是中美关系政治基础中的基础，是中美关系第一条不可跨越的红线。台湾问题之所以产生，美国负有不可推卸的责任。我们之所以同美国谈台湾问题，是要求美方不要干涉中国内政。
The Taiwan question is the core of the core interests of China, the bedrock of the political foundation of China-US relations, and the first red line that must not be crossed in China-US relations. The US has unshakable responsibility for causing the Taiwan question. The reason why China raises this question to the US is to urge it to stop interfering in China's internal affairs.
中国人民有权问：为什么美方在乌克兰问题上大谈尊重主权和领土完整，却在中国的台湾问题上不尊重中国的主权和领土完整？为什么一边要求中方不向俄罗斯提供武器，一边却长期违反817公报向台湾售武，一边口口声声地说维护地区和平稳定，一边却暗地里制定了摧毁台湾的计划。
The Chinese people have every right to ask, why does the US talk at length about respecting sovereignty and territorial integrity on Ukraine, while disrespecting China's sovereignty and territorial integrity on the Taiwan question? Why does the US ask China not to provide weapons to Russia, while it keeps selling arms to Taiwan in violation of the August 17th communique? Why does the US keep on professing the maintenance of regional peace and stability, while covertly formulating a plan for the destruction of Taiwan?
台湾分裂与台海和平稳定水火不容。台海和平稳定的真实威胁是台独分裂势力，定海神针是一个中国原则，真正的护栏是中美3个联合公报。台湾问题处理不好，中美关系地动山摇。
Separatism for Taiwan independence is as incompatible with peace and stability of the Taiwan Strait as fire with water. For peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, its real threat is the separatist forces for Taiwan independence. Its solid anchor is the One China principle, and its genuine guardrails are the 3 China-US joint communiques. Mishandling of the Taiwan question will shake the very foundation of China-US relations.
如果美方真的希望台海风平浪静，就应该停止以台制华，回归一个中国原则的本源本意，恪守对中方做出的政治承诺，明确反对和制止台独。
If the US truly expects a peaceful Taiwan Strait, it should stop containing China by exploiting the Taiwan question, return to the fundamental of the One China principle, honor its political commitment to China, and unequivocally oppose and forestall Taiwan independence.
谢谢。
Thank you.
谢谢，请继续提问。请南区第一排第二位男士提问，谢谢。
谢谢主持人，秦外长您好，我是环球时报环球网记者。俄乌冲突至今已经持续了1年多时间，近来一些美西方舆论把矛头指向中国，要求中国不要向俄罗斯提供致命性援助，渲染中国特殊责任论，甚至认为只有中国才可以结束这场战争。请问您对此怎么看？谢谢。
Global Times. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has been going on for over a year. Some in the US and other Western countries are now targeting China, urging China not to provide lethal assistance to Russia, hyping up China's special responsibility, and even asserting that only China can end the fighting. What is your take on this?
乌克兰危机本来是一场可以避免的悲剧，发展到今天这个地步，教训惨痛，值得各方深刻反思。乌克兰危机的本质是欧洲安全治理矛盾的大爆发，它有着复杂的历史经纬和现实原因。
The Ukraine crisis is a tragedy that could have been avoided, but it has come to where it stands today. There are painful lessons that all parties should truly reflect upon. In essence, it is an eruption of the problems built up in the security governance of Europe. It has a complex history and complex reasons.
我们始终根据事情的是非曲直，独立自主地做出我们的判断，决定我们的立场。在和平与战争之间，我们选择和平；在对话与制裁之间，我们选择对话；在降温与拱火之间，我们选择降温。中国既不是危机的制造者，又不是危机的当事方，也没有向冲突任何一方提供武器，凭什么要向中国甩锅推责、制裁、施压，甚至威胁？对此，我们绝不接受。
China always makes its own judgment and decides on its position independently based on the merits of the issue. Between war and peace, we choose peace. Between sanctions and dialogue, we choose dialogue. Between fanning the flames and lowering the temperature, we choose the latter. China did not create the crisis. It is not a party to the crisis and has not provided weapons to either side of the conflict. Why on earth the blame, sanctions, and threats against China? This is absolutely unacceptable.
前几天，我们发布了关于政治解决乌克兰危机的中国立场文件，提出尊重各国主权、摒弃冷战思维、停火止战、启动和谈等12项主张，核心就是劝和促谈。然而，令人遗憾的是，劝和促谈的努力一直遭到破坏，似乎有只看不见的手在推动冲突延宕升级，借乌克兰危机达到某种地缘政治意图。
Less than 2 weeks ago, we issued China's position on the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis. It offers 12 propositions, including respecting the sovereignty of all countries, abandoning the Cold War mentality, ceasing hostilities, and resuming peace talks. The core stance is to promote talks for peace. Regrettably, however, efforts for peace talks have been repeatedly undermined. There seems to be an invisible hand pushing for the protraction and escalation of the conflict, and using the Ukraine crisis to serve certain geopolitical agenda.
当前，乌克兰危机到了紧要关头，要么停火止战，恢复和平，走上政治解决的正轨；要么火上浇油，扩大危机，陷入失控的深渊。冲突、制裁、施压解决不了问题。现在需要的是冷静、理智对话。和谈进程应该尽快开启，有关各方合理的安全关切都应该得到尊重，从而找到欧洲长治久安之策。
The Ukraine crisis has come to a critical juncture. Either hostilities stop and peace is restored and the process of political settlement begins, or more fuel is added to the flames and the crisis further expands and spirals out of control. Conflict, sanctions, and pressure will not solve the problem. What is needed is calmness, reason, and dialogue. The process of peace talks should begin as soon as possible, and the legitimate security concerns of all parties should be respected. This is the right way to achieve durable security in Europe.
谢谢。
Thank you.
好，请继续提问。请南区第4排巴通社阿斯加尔。
Question from Associated Press of Pakistan. This year marks the 10th year of China Belt and Road Initiative. The United States and European Union have also come up with their own global infrastructure initiatives, such as build back and better framework. Do you see them competing initiative? Some people say that Belt and Road can lead to debt traps. How would you like to respond to that? Thank you.
巴通社，今年是中国提出"一带一路"倡议10周年。近年来，美国、欧盟也出台了一些全球基建计划，如重建更美好世界。您认为这些倡议和计划之间有竞争关系吗？有人质疑"一带一路"可能导致债务陷阱，您怎么看？"
一带一路"倡议是中国发起、各方共建、世界共享的优质公共产品。优在高标准、可持续、惠民生。因为优质实用，所以广受欢迎。迄今已吸引了世界上超过3/4的国家和32个国际组织参与其中。
The Belt and Road Initiative is a high-quality public good initiated by China, built by the parties involved, and shared by the world. The BRI delivers high-standard, sustainable, and livelihood-enhancing outcomes, and is hence widely welcomed. To date, over 3/4 of countries around the world and 32 international organizations have joined this initiative.
倡议已经提出了10年了，从当初的蓝图变成今天的实景，化作了各国发展的实效，百姓民生的实惠。10年铺就了共同发展的康庄大道，留下了一个个国家地标、民生工程、合作丰碑。
10 years after its inception, the BRI has evolved from vision into reality, boosting development in partner countries and bringing real benefits to the people. A decade of efforts have laid down a pathway toward common development and created an array of national landmarks, livelihood projects, and milestones of cooperation.
10年里，倡议拉动了近万亿美元的投资规模，形成了3000多个合作项目，为沿线国创造了42万个工作岗位，将要让4000万人摆脱贫困。中老铁路使老挝从一个陆锁国变成了陆联国。斯里兰卡普特拉姆电站点亮了万家灯火。蒙内铁路拉动了沿线经济增长，超过了2个百分点。鲁班工坊使20多个国家的年轻人掌握了职业技能。中欧班列迄今已运行了65000列次，成为连通亚欧的钢铁驼队，运送抗疫物资的健康快车。
Over the past decade, the BRI has galvanized nearly $1 trillion of investment, established more than 3,000 cooperation projects, created 420,000 local jobs, and helped lift almost 40 million people out of poverty. The China-Laos Railway helps make landlocked Laos a land-linked country. The Puttalam power plant helps light up numerous Sri Lankan homes at night. The Mombasa-Nairobi Railway adds more than 2 percentage points to local economic growth. Luban workshops help young people in over 20 countries acquire vocational skills. The China-Europe Railway Express has completed more than 65,000 freight services, serving as a steel camel fleet between Asia and Europe, and a health train delivering medical supplies during the pandemic.
今年，中方将举办第3届“一带一路”国际合作高峰论坛。我们将以此为契机，与各有关方一道，推动共建“一带一路”取得更丰硕的成果。
China will host the 3rd Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation this year. We will take this as an opportunity and work with all parties for more fruitful outcomes from the Belt and Road cooperation.
一带一路是务实开放的倡议，秉持的是共商、共建、共享的原则。在合作中，我们有商有量；在交往中，我们重情重义。对于其他国家提出的倡议，只要不以意识形态划线，我们都欢迎。只要不夹带地缘政治的私货，我们都乐见其成。
The BRI is a practical and open initiative guided by the principle of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits. Its cooperation is conducted through consultation, and its partnerships are built with friendship and good faith. We welcome all initiatives and programs that are not ideologically driven proposed by other countries, and we are happy to see them succeed if they don't carry a geopolitical agenda.
所谓债务陷阱，这顶帽子无论如何不能扣在中国头上。据统计，在发展中国家主权债务中，多边金融机构和商业债权人的占比超过了80%，他们才是有关国家债务压力的最大来源。 特别是自去年以来，美国以前所未有的幅度急速的加息，各国资本纷纷外流，使有关国家的债务问题雪上加霜。
China should be the last one to be accused of the so-called debt trap. Data show that multilateral financial institutions and commercial creditors account for over 80% of the sovereign debt of developing countries. They are the biggest source of the debt burden on developing countries. Particularly since last year, the unprecedented rapid interest hikes by the US have led to massive capital outflows in many countries and worsened the debt problems in the countries concerned.
中方一直致力于为相关国家纾困解难。在20国集团的还债倡议中，中方做出的贡献最大。我们将继续以建设性的态度参与国际债务问题的解决。同时，我们也呼吁其他各相关方共同行动，公平分担。大家坐下来商量，办法总会比问题多。
China has been making efforts to help the countries in distress and is the biggest contributor to the G20's debt service suspension initiative. China will continue to participate constructively in the resolution of international debt issues. Meanwhile, we call on other parties to act together and share the burden fairly. When parties sit together and talk things through, there will be more solutions than problems.
谢谢。
Thank you.
请继续提问。请北区第2排日本 NHK 石川胜介。
谢谢。日本广播协会NHK 我用英语提问。This year marks the 45th anniversary of Japan and China Peace and Friendship Treaty. A summit meeting was held in November last year. The two leaders agreed to communicate closely at all levels toward the development of our relations. On the other hand, the difference in the positions of the two countries in the fields of politics, economy, and security has become clear, and face-to-face foreign ministers' meetings have not been realized. In China, new leadership has been established through Arashita He Liang Hui. So, Mr. Qin Gang, how do you plan to build relations with Japan in the near future? Thank you. 谢谢。
日本广播协会。今年是中日和平友好条约签订45周年。去年11月，中日领导人会晤时，岸田文雄首相表示，双方领导人应该就双边关系发展保持紧密的沟通。目前，在政治、经济、安全保障等领域，双方各自立场仍存在鲜明分歧，双方外长仍未实现面对面会谈。请问，中国新一届领导集体打算构建怎样的中日关系？
中日一衣带水，构建新时代的中日关系，我认为要坚持做到以下几点。
China and Japan are close neighbors. To foster a China-Japan relationship for the new era, it is important to do the following.
首先，要言而有信。45年前，两国缔结了中日和平友好条约，首次以法律形式确认了中日关系的原则和方向。这个条约连同中日间的其他4个政治文件，构成了中日关系的政治基础。特别是 两国互不构成威胁、互为合作伙伴的承诺，这是一个重要的政治共识，应该得到严格的遵守。说了就要做到。
First, honor commitments. Our two countries signed the Treaty of Peace and Friendship 45 years ago, codifying the principles and direction for the development of China-Japan relations for the first time. This treaty, together with other political documents between China and Japan, form the political foundation of the bilateral relations. These documents, particularly the important political consensus that the two countries should be partners, not threats, must be truly observed. Words must be matched with actions.
第二，要以史为鉴。日本军国主义曾给中华民族造成了深重伤害，至今人人作痛。中国人民不会忘记，日方也不应忘记。忘记历史，就意味着背叛；否认罪责，就意味着重犯。
Second, learn lessons from history. The immense sufferings imposed by the Japanese militarists on the Chinese nation are still painful today. The Chinese people will not forget this, and the Japanese side must not forget. Forgetting history is a betrayal, and denying a crime is to repeat a crime.
中方始终以善意对待日本，希望两国睦邻友好。但如果日方有些人不想以邻为伴，而是要以邻为壑，甚至要参与遏制中国的新冷战，那么中日两国之间就是旧伤未愈，又添新痛。
China always treats Japan with goodwill and hopes for friendship and good neighborliness. Yet, should some people from the Japanese side choose a beggar thy neighbor approach rather than pursuing French partnership and take part in a new Cold War to contain China, the bilateral relations would only suffer new wounds when the old ones are yet to be healed.
第三，要维护秩序。现在，日方的一些领导人也在大谈所谓的秩序。那么我们今天就要掰扯掰扯，这个秩序是什么？
Third, preserve the international order. Some leaders in Japan recently have also been talking a lot about international order. We need to make clear what order we are talking about.
今天的国际秩序是建立在世界反法西斯战争胜利的基础上，是3500万中国军民用生命和鲜血换来的。一切挑战战后国际秩序和国际正义的历史修正主义，中国人民都绝不答应。
Today's international order is built on the victory of the World Anti-Fascist War, which cost the lives and blood of 35 million Chinese soldiers and civilians. The Chinese people will never accept any form of historical revisionism that challenges the post-war international order and international justice.
中日和平友好条约中明确规定，反对霸权主义。条约的精神在当下具有重要的意义。
The Treaty of Peace and Friendship explicitly opposed hegemonism, and its spirit remains relevant today.
第四，要互利共赢。中日优势互补，互有需要。我们应该坚持市场原则和自由开放的精神，加强合作，共同维护产业链、 供应链稳定畅通，为世界经济复苏注入动力活力。
Fourth, promote win-win cooperation. China and Japan are highly complementary and need each other. We should uphold market principles and a free and open spirit, increase our cooperation, and jointly ensure stable and smooth industrial and supply chains, and inject impetus and vitality into global economic recovery.
最后，我还要说一件事情。日本政府已经决定将福岛核污染水排入大海。这可不是日本一家的私事，而是事关海洋环境和人类健康的大事儿。我们敦促日方以负责任的态度处理好这一问题。
One more issue I wish to raise here. The Japanese government has decided to discharge contaminated water of the Fukushima nuclear power plant into the sea. This is not Japan's private business, but a major issue vital to the marine environment and human health. We urge the Japanese side to properly handle this matter in a responsible manner.
谢谢。
Thank you.
谢谢，请继续提问。请中区第5排第2位女士提问，谢谢。
外长您好，我是新华社记者。美国声称要塑造中国周边战略环境，一个重要抓手就是印太战略，一些地区国家就此受到很大压力。近期有媒体评论认为呢，随着中国经济下行压力增加，地区国家安全上依靠美国，经济上依靠中国，越来越难以持续。请问您怎么看这个问题？谢谢。
Xinhua News Agency. The U.S. claims that it will shape the strategic environment in which China operates. Its Indo-Pacific strategy is an important leverage to achieve this. As a result, many countries in the region have felt great pressure. Some media suggested that as the Chinese economy faces growing downward pressure, regional countries have found it increasingly difficult to continue to rely on the U.S. for security guarantee and on China for economic development. What is your view?
美国的印太战略标榜自由开放，实际上拉帮结伙，搞各种封闭排他的小圈子，号称维护地区安全，实际上挑起对抗，策划亚太版北约，宣扬促进地区繁荣，实际上是搞脱钩断链，破坏地区一体化进程。
The U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy, while purportedly aims at upholding freedom and openness, maintaining security, and promoting prosperity in the region, is in fact an attempt to gang up to form exclusive blocs, to provoke confrontation by plotting an Asia-Pacific version of NATO, and to undermine regional integration through decoupling and cutting chains.
美国公开声称要塑造中国的周边战略环境，这恰恰暴露了印太战略的围堵中国的真实目的，其最终结果只会导致冲击以东盟为中心的开放包容的地区合作框架，损害地区国家的整体和长远利益，注定走不远，行不通。
The U.S. claim to shape the strategic environment in which China operates actually reveals the real purpose of its Indo-Pacific strategy, that is, to encircle China. Such an attempt will only disrupt the ASEAN-centered, open and inclusive regional cooperation architecture and undermine the overall and long-term interests of regional countries. It is bound to fail.
我注意到最近不少地区国家的领导人表示，东盟 不能成为任何外部势力的代理人，不能陷入大国博弈的漩涡。的确，亚洲，我们的亚太地区，应该成为合作共赢的舞台，而不是地缘博弈的棋盘。任何冷战绝不容在亚洲重演，乌克兰式的危机绝不容在我们这个地区复制。
Recently, I have noticed that leaders of a number of regional countries have stated that ASEAN should not be a proxy for any party and should stay clear from big power rivalry. As a pace-setter in global development, Asia and the Asia-Pacific region should be a stage for win-win cooperation rather than a chessboard for geopolitical contest. No Cold War should be reignited, and no Ukraine-style crisis should be repeated in Asia.
至于说经济上、安全上要靠谁，我的看法是，还是要同舟共济、患难与共、共谋安全、共促发展、共筑更加紧密的周边命运共同体。
As for who to rely on in terms of security and economy, I believe it is necessary to stand together in face of difficulties, jointly pursue security and development, and work together to build a closer community with a shared future in the neighborhood.
有人担心中国经济的前景，我认为大可不必。近期一些国际机构已经纷纷上调了对今年中国经济增长的预期，我们自己的预期也是在5%左右，这将远远高于其他主要的经济体。过去1年，中国吸引外资增长了8%，吸引的规模、引资的规模居全球前列。中国发展高峰论坛、博鳌亚洲论坛年会即将开始。今年天津夏季达沃斯论坛也将举办。据我了解，前来参会的各国企业家争先恐后。
Some are concerned about China's economic outlook. I think that's quite unnecessary. International institutions have recently revised upward their forecast on China's economic growth this year. Our projected growth target is around 5%, far higher than other major economies. Last year, China's paid-in foreign investment was up by 8%, and it remained a top destination for foreign investors. The China Development Forum and the Boao Forum for Asia annual conference will soon be held, and so will the summer Davos in Tianjin. Many foreign business leaders have applied to participate.
近期，我和多位地区国家的外长交流，大家期待最大的就是发展，谈论最多的就是合作。我相信，中国加快推进高质量发展，扩大高水平对外开放，构建新发展格局，必将为各国，特别是地区国家，提供新的机遇。
In the recent exchanges with my counterparts from regional countries, development is what we all hope for the most, and cooperation is more discussed than any other subject. I believe as China accelerates high-quality development, promotes high-standard opening up, and fosters a new development paradigm, it will surely bring new opportunities to all countries in the world, especially regional countries.
谢谢。
Thank you.
谢谢，请继续提问。请北区第4排。 第一位女士提问，谢谢。
秦外长好，我是澎湃新闻的记者。我的问题是，去年底，习近平主席出席了首届中阿峰会、中海峰会，并对沙特进行了国事访问。今年2月，中方又接待了伊朗总统莱西访华。显然，中国对中东地区的重视在上升。那么，请问未来中国的中东政策的重点是什么？谢谢。
The paper. Late last year, President Xi Jinping attended the first China-Arab States Summit and the China Gulf Cooperation Council Summit, and paid a state visit to Saudi Arabia. In February this year, China hosted Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. This shows China is giving more attention to the Middle East. What will be China's priorities in its Middle East policy?
中国和中东国家交往悠久，是好朋友、好伙伴。在去年底召开的首届中阿峰会上，中阿双方一致同意全力构建面向新时代的中阿命运共同体，有力地促进了中国同阿拉伯国家的友好合作。上个月，伊朗总统莱西成功访华，双方一致同意深化发展中伊全面战略伙伴关系，推动双边关系迈上了新台阶。
There are long-standing relations between China and the Middle East countries. We are good friends and good partners. At the first China-Arab States Summit late last year, the two sides agreed to build a China-Arab community with a shared future in a new era. This is a strong boost to our friendship and cooperation. Last month, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi paid a successful visit to China. During the visit, the two sides agreed to deepen the China-Iran comprehensive strategic partnership and take the bilateral relations to new levels.
中国支持中东国家实现战略自主，反对外部势力干涉中东国家内政。中国将继续主持公道，支持中东国家通过对话协商推动热点问题的政治解决。中国完全尊重中东国家的主人翁地位，不会去填补所谓的真空，也不搞排他的小圈子。我们愿做中东安全稳定的促进者，发展繁荣的合作者，团结自强的推动者。
China supports the strategic autonomy of Middle East countries and opposes foreign interference in their internal affairs. China will continue to stand for justice and support countries in this region in seeking political settlement of hotspot issues through dialogue and consultation. China fully respects Middle East countries as the masters of their own affairs. We have no intention to fill a so-called vacuum, and we will not build exclusive circles. In the Middle East, China will be a facilitator for peace and stability, a cooperative partner for development and prosperity, and an enabler for building strength through unity.
谢谢。
Thank you.
好，请继续提问。请中区第5排，海峡时报陈丹薇。
谢谢主持人。新加坡海峡时报 A question from the Straits Times. Minister Qin, when you were first appointed, some observers were quick to suggest that it was a signal that China is taking a softer approach with its diplomacy and moving away from what was seen as an assertive style of international relations that had earned the nickname Wolf Warrior diplomacy. Is China really pivoting away from what has been viewed as a tough brand of engagement? Thank you.
海峡时报，一些观察者认为，您被任命为外交部长，是中国正采取一种更加柔和的外交方式的体现，是抛弃被称为战狼外交的独断的国际关系风格的信号。
中国真的偏离了以往被视为强硬的标签吗？
这是个有意思的问题。记得我刚到美国任大使的时候，美国媒体惊呼：“中国战狼来了！”现在我回来当外长了，这称号又不给我了，我还真有点若有所失。
A very interesting question. I recall when I just arrived as Chinese ambassador to the United States, American media claimed, "Here comes a Chinese wolf warrior." Now I'm back as the foreign minister. The media have stopped calling me that way. I kind of feel at a loss.
其实，所谓的战狼外交，就是一个话语陷阱。制造这个话语陷阱的人，要么不懂中国和中国外交，要么无视事实，别有用心。
The truth is, wolf warrior diplomacy is a narrative trap. Those who coined the term and set the trap either know little about China and its diplomacy or have a hidden agenda in disregard of facts.
2000多年前，孔夫子就说过：“以德报德，以直报怨。以德报怨，何以报德？”中国的外交有足够的厚道与善意，但当豺狼当道，恶狼来袭时，中国的外交官必须与狼共舞，保家卫国。
Confucius said over 2,000 years ago, one should repay kindness with kindness and resentment with justice. If resentment is repaid with kindness, then with what should kindness be repaid? In Chinese diplomacy, there is no shortage of kindness and goodwill. But if faced with jackals or wolves, Chinese diplomats would have no choice but to confront them head-on and protect our motherland.
谢谢。
Thank you.
谢谢，请继续提问。中区第3排，中间位置 AFP 凯琳。
Zhao Shanghao, good morning. I am Katela Budin from AFP News Agency. Here is my question. Given the tense relationship between China and the United States over the past few months, does China plan to strengthen its relationship with the European Union on the political and commercial levels?
法新社，鉴于过去几个月中美关系紧张，中方是否计划加强与欧盟的政治和商贸关系？
中欧是两大文明、两大市场、两大力量。中欧开展交往，完全是基于彼此战略利益、独立做出的选择。中欧关系不针对、不依附，也不受制于任何第三方。
China and Europe are two great civilizations, two big markets, and two major forces. Our interactions are an independent choice made by the two sides, entirely based on our respective strategic interests. The China-Europe relationship is not targeted at any third party, nor is it subjugated to or controlled by any third party.
不管形势如何发展，中方始终视欧盟为全面战略伙伴，支持欧洲一体化。我们希望欧洲经历了乌克兰战火的磨难，痛定思痛，真正实现战略自主，长治久安。
No matter how the situation may evolve, China all along sees the European Union as a comprehensive strategic partner and supports European integration. We hope that Europe, with the painful Ukraine crisis in mind, will truly realize strategic autonomy and long-term peace and stability.
我们愿同欧方一道，坚持真正的多边主义，坚持相互尊重、合作共赢，克服一切困难和干扰，不断深化中欧全面战略伙伴关系，为世界为这个变乱交织的世界注入更多的稳定性、确定性和正能量。
We will work with Europe to uphold true multilateralism and keep to mutual respect and win-win cooperation. We wish to work with Europe to overcome disruptions and challenges, keep deepening the China-EU comprehensive strategic partnership, and bring more stability, certainty, and positive energy to a world of change and disorder.
谢谢。
Thank you.
因为时间的关系，现在请提最后一个问题。
Due to time limit, we'll have to take just one more question.
请中区第4排第3位女士提问。第4排第3位女士。
请问外长您好，我是中国日报社的一名青年记者。最近我们报社开展了你的关注外长来答的征集活动，有很多的青年人都非常关注中国的国际形象和中国国际话语权的问题。我想请问外长，您认为我们应该如何向国际社会展示一个真实、全面、立体的中国，以及在提升中国话语权的话题上，我们青年人应该发挥什么样的作用？谢谢。
China Daily. We recently launched a survey to collect questions for the Foreign Minister. Many young people care a lot about China's international image and voice in international affairs. How can we present to the world a true, multidimensional, and panoramic picture of China? What role can young people play in making China's voice better heard?
首先感谢中国日报开设了这样的一个平台，能够拉近民众，特别是青年人与中国外交的距离，也感谢广大青年朋友对外交工作的关注和支持。我认为这个问题提得非常好，我对中国青年呢能有这样的一个情怀和眼界感到欣慰。
I'd like to first thank China Daily for conducting this survey. I believe this helps to bring the general public, especially the young people, closer to China's diplomacy. I'd also like to thank our young friends for your interest in and support for China's diplomatic work. And I'm also very pleased to see that our young people have this ambition and this vision.
感谢中国人有句古话叫“天下兴亡，匹夫有责”。习近平总书记说过：“青年代表希望，青年创造明天。青年要在参与构建人类命运共同体的实践中，展现青春活力。”
As the Chinese proverb goes, everyone has a responsibility for the future of their country. General Secretary Xi Jinping observed that young people are our hope and will shape the future, and that they should demonstrate their youthful vigor in the building of a community with a shared future for mankind.
当今中国正日益走进世界舞台的中央，我们比以往更容易上热搜，被围观，但我们手中的麦克风还不够多，音量还不够响，舞台上还有不少麦霸，关于中国的噪音、杂音还不少。提升中国的国际话语权，当代中国青年义不容辞。
China is moving closer to the center of the world stage. We make trending topics and find ourselves in spotlight more often. But we don't have enough microphones, and our voice is not loud enough. Some are still hogging the microphones, and there are quite many noises and jarring notes about China. When it comes to making China's voice heard loud and clear, young Chinese have an important role to play.
作为交流，我愿呢向广大青年呢提几点希望。青年要自信，我们中华5000年的文明，中国现代化发展的成就，赋予了我们自信的底气。希望青年在实践锻造中，不断增强做中国人的志气、骨气、底气，平视这个世界，与世界平等的对话，拿出中国青年的视角，发出中国青年的声音，展示中国青年的风采。
Let me take this occasion to give you a few suggestions. First of all, be confident. Our 5,000-year civilization and our achievements in modernization are the source of such confidence. I hope that young people will foster greater ambition, grit, and determination through practice. I hope you will look the world in the eye and have dialogue with the world on equal footing, to share your unique perspectives, make your voices heard, and tell the world who you are.
青年要进取，实现中华民族伟大复兴，构建人类命运共同体，需要青年奋勇争先，顽强拼搏。如果说西方现代化是人类现代化的序曲，那么包括中国在内的广大发展中国家的发展进步，才是人类现代化的交响。中国青年奋斗逐梦，则是这部交响曲中最跳动、最美妙的音符。
Second, be enterprising. To realize the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and build a community with a shared future for mankind, young people should step forward with courage and tenacity. While Western modernization is the prelude to the modernization of humanity, the development and progress of developing countries, including China, is a symphony. Young Chinese can compose the most exciting and beautiful part of this symphony with your relentless pursuit of dreams.
青年要开放，要胸怀天下，走出去，博采众长，交流互鉴，用自己的眼睛观察世界，用自己的话语解说中国，讲好中国故事，展示中华文化。
Third, be open-minded. You need to cultivate a global vision and draw on others' strengths through exchange and mutual learning. You need to see the world with your own eyes and tell the world about China in your own words. In this process, you can be good narrators of China's stories and envoys of the Chinese culture.
欢迎更多的青年朋友投身中国外交，在风云际会的年代，谱写壮丽的青春之歌。
I hope more young friends will join the diplomatic service and live youth to the fullest in the times of great opportunities.
谢谢。
Thank you.
谢谢，媒体朋友们，今天的记者会到此结束。谢谢秦刚部长，谢谢大家。
最后我再说几句哈。就是明天呢是38国际劳动妇女节，我在这里呢也向参加两会的女代表、女委员、女记者和女同胞们致以节日的问候，祝大家节日快乐，万事顺意，谢谢。
Tomorrow will be the International Women's Day. Taking this opportunity, I wish to send festive greetings to all female NPC deputies, CPPCC National Committee members, journalists, and friends. Wish you a happy Women's Day and all the best. And this ends our press conference today. Thank you.
A press conference with China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang. The Foreign Minister took the opportunity to address a wide range of issues of concern, everything from China's path to modernization, to China's position on global governance, to China-U.S. relations, the Taiwan question, the so-called wolf warrior diplomacy, ending with China's international image. The Foreign Minister was candid, he was sincere, and quite humorous at times, soliciting a collective laugh from members of the press and media who packed that hall to listen to the new Chinese Foreign Minister. And now let's see if my studio guests here agree with me on how the Foreign Minister did this time. Zun, let me begin with you. What was your overall impression of what was covered in that very comprehensive presentation, even though it was conducted in a Q&A session, but then it really was a comprehensive presentation of Foreign Minister Qin Gang's vision of China's diplomacy?
Well, I completely agree. It was very candid, covered a lot of aspects. The curiosity, what is China's vision for multilateralism, global governance, and I think the ideas, especially coming from many of the developing countries as well, the way they look at the Belt and Road Initiative, what is their expectation, and I think there was also a very important aspect of communicating China's perspective, which is essentially people-centric, which is essentially that unity is something entirely possible. Great power relations can be amicable. We don't have to be alike to get along. And of course, in order to move forward as a global community with a shared future, it's important to continue dialogue. So there's a lot more there, but I also will like to add that when he talks specifically about development, like Luban, for instance, is an example of China's focus on human capacity building and focus on agency of developing countries, of regions of the world at large. So there is a lot to understand. I think it was a candid, and it helped us have a candid understanding of what's China's perspective overall.
It is clear he values China's relationship with developing countries, saying that people in those countries deserve a better life.
Sorry,
go ahead.
I'll just quickly add, also the fact that he said people in the United States or any part of the world matter, that human perspective was very important to communicate, and I'm glad that it came across.
And he pointed to the commonality between Chinese people and American people, citing his interactions with just average people, that he encountered in his capacity as the Chinese ambassador there, Iowa farmers, port workers in Los Angeles, all of that pointing to what people from different countries have in common. Mr. Zhao, can I get your take?
Well, first of all, I have to say this is an excellent presentation, and congratulations to our new foreign minister. I think Chinese people are very lucky to have a very energetic, candid, but also very smart, very sharp, and from time to time humorous, as you said, foreign minister. So at this point, I think he has done an excellent job explaining China's foreign policy in the coming years. And number two, I think there are several memorable incidents or moments in this whole press conference. Number one, I think the most impressive one is that when the Taiwan issue has been raised, and he pulled out a Chinese constitution and explained what the constitution said, and also explained why China's anti-secession law requires Chinese to react if the red line is crossed. So I think that's very impressive. And number two, I think in the talking about China-U.S. relationship, as you mentioned, he used his personal experience interacting with the common people, and actually using that fighting back against the U.S. accusation that somehow the Chinese Communist Party of China is disconnected with our own people. But in fact, it's the U.S. Politicians in Washington, D.C. disconnected with their own people. I think that's very impressive. And also he said that these competition that the U.S. is talking about is actually illegal and violating the basic rules that they set themselves. So he said something interesting. He said the U.S. wanted to kick basically China out of the Olympic game into the Paralympics, which means this is not a regular competition in any equal, just sense, but actually a foul. And number three, I think he touched upon all the major relationships with Russia, with Japan, with European countries, and he maintained that China wanted to have a new major country or major area relationship with all those countries, and China is advocating forever a peaceful development trajectory. Of course, we insist on our own core interests and our principles. However, I think all those countries should not deem China as somehow using this phrase of wolf warrior diplomacy. Actually, China is only responding to those wolf warrior actions from the outside. At the core, Chinese culture, civilization, and also the party is following a peaceful line of development.
A lot of perception problems actually here talked about by the foreign minister. I appreciate both of your takes. Stay with me here on our program. Let's get an update from our ears and eyes on the ground. CGTN Tianwei joins me with an update from the media center. Tianwei, 14 questions taken by the foreign minister in just under 2 hours' time. What stood out for you?
Well, yes, indeed. The first national presser for the Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang. 2 hours. One could almost divide the 2 hours into two parts. First part, the Chinese foreign minister mainly used about 1 hour's time to clarify China's position and to point out some of the narrative traps the geopolitics has tried to push China in. For example, on the issue of Russian-Ukraine crisis, he suggested very clearly that China was not any of the party that created the original problem, was not involved in the conflict, and also did not sell any arms to any of the party. And yet China has been accused of unreasonable issues and also even being threatened for punishment and sanctions. He certainly pointed out it is absolutely not acceptable. On the other hand, he suggested China put out already the peaceful settlement proposal of the Ukraine crisis in the earlier weeks, and those should be followed up by parties involved. On the issue of China-US relations, he's also trying very hard to clarify China's position and to point out some of the narrative traps that has been lingering around for quite some time. For example, what is so-called the U.S. version of guardrail? What is so-called the competition that the U.S. has been using toward China? And what is the nature of relations, in fact, between China and the United States? He pointed out it should be about common interests, common responsibilities, and also about even friendship. The Chinese foreign minister, though, have suggested that the U.S. Has been trying to use both rhetorical narratives and also pressure against the countries around the world to divide the world. So it is very clearly that the Chinese foreign minister trying to use the first hour to clarify China's position and also bring people out of the earlier popular narrative traps. Yet, at the second hour, he almost spent 60 minutes time talking about China's initiatives. These include the regional and international initiatives like the Global Security Initiative, Global Development Initiative, and the earlier Belt and Road Initiative, which is celebrating 10th anniversary this year. He also talked about China's earlier proposal for humanity with common prosperity and also shared future. Meanwhile, he's also bringing out China's position very clearly about building constructive relations with Europe, with Arabic countries, with China's neighbor, the ASEAN economies as well. So you can tell that the Chinese foreign minister is working very hard to, on the one hand, dismiss some of the misperceptions and narrative traps. On the other hand, stated very clearly China's positions and China's constructive proposals. Meanwhile, he make public the announcements of 3 important forums For example, China Development Forum, Boao Forum for Asia, and also the Summer Davos in Tianjin later this year for international friends to further engage with China in China. Also, he announced the two important international forums and occasions, such as China Central Asia Summit and also the Belt and Road BRI Forum later this year. You can tell that China is working very hard, demonstrated by the Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang, that it is building its core foreign policy approach, which is peaceful policy and also which is a policy based on mutual respect and friendship. Back to you.
We appreciate that update from you, and thank you so much for bringing that to us. In case you missed parts of that press conference just now, Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang talked about China's stance in terms of its relations with the U.S. Take a listen.
中方将始终按照习近平主席提出的相互尊重、和平共处、合作共赢的原则。
China will continue to follow the principles put forward by President Xi Jinping, namely mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation, to pursue a sound and stable relationship with the United States. We hope the U.S. government will listen to the calls of the two peoples, get rid of its strategic anxiety of threat inflation, abandon its zero-sum game mentality, which is a Cold War mentality, and refuse to be hijacked by political correctness. We hope the U.S. will honor its commitments and work with China to explore the right way to get along with each other to the benefits of both countries and the entire world.
Let's talk about the specific topic of China-U.S. relations. Not a lot of talking points, new talking points, from the foreign minister, but you do get the major message that the U.S. is sizing up China the wrong way. Words he used include presumption of guilt, distorted perception, which resulted in disproportionate reactions, such as reactions to the airship incident and other episodes he encountered as the Chinese ambassador to the U.S. last year. Mr. Zhao, let me get your take first on his explanation of why things have deteriorated between the two countries.
I think he didn't say it out loud, but you can detect that from the undertone, which is that there are some forces within the United States that China cannot control, and those forces are determined to design a trap for China-U.S. relationship and also trying to push China-U.S. towards a new Cold War. And in those accusations he mentioned, those people are trying to, from domestic politics perspective, pushing against this kind of trap or wrong perception or misperception of China, trying to bring American people on board to pressure China and then contain China, put China, U.S. into this new Cold War position. However, I think in answer to that, Chinese position is not just to trying to change America's perception, because at this point I think it's very difficult and it takes time. Although this year we pushed down the acceleration button, and then there will be a lot more communication than during the COVID era. However, I think to solve the ice, it needs time, and then to clarify misperceptions, you need more energy and more investment. What China outlined a different strategy, which is that we will influence other U.S. partners and allies for them to realize that within the United States, there is some very small group of people trying to push for a different agenda. That agenda is actually harming not only American people, but also their allies and their allies' relations with China. So in order to actually contain that part of the United States, the better way is to build what China called a partnership network, to fight against this alliance network. Because the alliance network is basically built on top of this very narrow military national security concept. However, Chinese partnership network is built on top of very broad developed country work together, to ensure development, prosperity, and security. So I think in order to turn this around and to have a better U.S.-China relationship, not only we have to deal with the United States, but also we have to go around the world and to find a different path toward a better future.
That's a very interesting point, isn't it, Zhu? I think we can all agree on that it's very difficult to change perception at this point, as Zhao Hai mentioned just now. But for the relationship to move forward, to move in a better course, it does seem from the foreign minister's point of view that it will take actions from the United States to change things, and these actions will be hard to come by. What is your takeaway from the points mentioned by Foreign Minister Qin Gang?
I think the aspect that Zhao Hai just brought up, I mean, the realization that in the end, there are certain stakeholders, let's just say, within the United States that benefit from dividing, right? Even, for instance, many of us followed the Summit on Democracy, which for many developing countries seemed to be a tone-deaf initiative. Countries have moved forward to a great extent from that narrative of, being divided into two poles. But those voices are still continuing from Washington. So I think China's, especially Foreign Minister Qin Gang's response, which highlighted the commonalities even between China and the US on a human level, that highlighted his experience being there and actually interacting and realizing there's so much both countries can work on in order to build human capacity. This is something that's very positive. And also the fact that China is focusing on keeping those relations. He mentioned in the ASEAN case that countries in the region want to cooperate, they want to improve, they want to have a situation where we can mutually benefit. So maintaining those, like he mentioned, the partnership network, maintaining that dialogue, realizing that people, whether it's in the European region, whether it's in East Asia, whether it's in other parts of the world, even the US, will benefit from consistent positive messaging, especially also from the Chinese side, ensuring that we are not, this is not some kind of divisive measure. China is not ideological. We just want to think about a people-centric, UN-endorsed approach of improving quality of lives. And I think this messaging, consistency of this messaging can be transformative moving forward.
And we'll keep watching that. It's so fascinating to see the new foreign minister ease into this job. It's only been just a couple of months. He's already winning hearts and minds over. We will all keep watching. I want to thank both of you for coming in today. Appreciate your expertise and analysis as always. And that wraps up our special coverage on the foreign minister's press conference. I'm Zhong Shi. On behalf of the entire team here, thank you so much for your company. Don't go anywhere. News continues on CGTN.